everybody, and welcome back to Art a la Carte, and this is part 2 of my journey to find the watercolor paint brand that I want to use. And if you missed the last video that I did, I went through all of the multiple brands that I have in my conglomeration of collection and kind of talked a little bit about them and did little swatches of them. So if you want to see that video, I'll leave a link to that at the end of this video so you can check that out. But today, I'm going to be testing out 3 brands that I've never tried before. So the first brand is this Vinci watercolor brand, which has come highly recommended by many of you guys. So it comes in this little tube, and this one I got off at Blick for $7 and I think 56 cents. So I'm going to be testing this out. First test I have is consistency of paint. This one's pretty creamy looking, kind of like a chocolate pudding. The next paint I'm going to be trying is this Holbein Artist watercolor, and I've heard also some very good things about this. Again, I got this one, was the most expensive of all of them. Believe this is a Japanese brand, so the consistency is not as loose as everything's a little bit more chunky, but that's just my observations of it. The last brand that I'm going to be trying is a brand from Blick themselves, which I'm hoping for because I like the price. It's actually a little bit more expensive than the Vinci at $7.88 for this tube, but the consistency out of the tube is extremely smooth. I really like that. Okay, so now moving on to the second part of my test, which is to wet them down a little bit and kind of get a consistency of wash from them, and they all work great with water, even the ones that kind of were a little bit more thick or chunky in the tube. As soon as water touched them, just had vibrant and beautiful colors, each and every single one of them. So I'm going to go ahead and actually fill these up with just a little bit more water to make the consistency of a light wash. And I'm going to do a wet on dry technique. That means that the paint is actually wet, but I'm placing it on dry paper. And again, this is a very diluted amount of paint. So we're doing the first test with this to see how the paint kind of moves, and does it dry nice and smooth? How does it flow on the paper? All of that good stuff. The next test is to do a really thick paint. Like if you just put a minute amount of water to it, almost straight out of the tube, how does that work? Plus I want to do a wet on wet technique, which is where you touch the paper to a wetted square on the paper and see how well it flows. And the Blick brand did amazing. I loved the thick consistency, and I also loved how it just spread amazingly on the wet on wet. The Holbein one, there's a lot of movement going on in that paint, which can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. It just kind of depends as an artist what you prefer. I wasn't super excited about how well it spread on wet. You kind of see it just kind of sat there a little bit, but that's definitely not a bad thing either. I just like my paint to spread. The Vinci had a really thick color. I don't think it went on as smoothly as the Blick, but for the wet and wet, look at that. Would y'all just look at that? I love when my paints kind of give that smoky effect as it travels through the water. For me as an artist, that's what I really want to look for, is how it travels and works on water. The third test that I want to do, maybe the fourth test, I don't know. The next test is how do these colors interact with each other, which is not really important if you're wanting to choose a solid brand, but because of something I'm going to do later on in this video, which is a 3-color painting challenge, I kind of wanted to figure this out. And you're going to notice something very interesting, that the Holbein and the Blick brand, at least these 2 colors, did something crazy. They did not like to mix, and I don't know what that is, but I found it fascinating and really enjoyed using that in my painting that's coming up in a little bit. Which, if you guys are coming in for the 3-color watercolor challenge, we're just about ready to get started with it. So the last swatch I did is I mixed all 3 colors together, and in a light wash you can get a kind of this muddy-ish poop brown, but if you put it really thickly you can almost get this really cool brownish black color. All right, let's finally move on to the 3-color watercolor challenge. So I'm using some nice watercolor block paper, and trying to decide what I wanted to do. And I thought, because of the 3 color choices that I had, which let me just go ahead and say, when I chose these 3 colors out, I was not thinking of a 3 paint challenge, kind of like the 3 marker challenge, but it's the 3 paint challenge. So the topic I decided was to do a mermaid, and I really like how this mermaid sketch turned out. She's kind of like my vision if I was to illustrate the original Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid. I think this would be kind of like the illustration design I would go for. So let's talk a little bit more about the paint. I love how these paints work together. Please also don't mind my head popping in and out of the screen. I have a new setup for my camera and my head just seems to always want to get in the way. But back to the paints. If you notice, you'll see that there are places where the 2 colors met and the paint was still wet, and so they drifted into each other. And some artists don't like that. I really do like that on certain things. There are certain things I want to not cross-contaminate colors, but for this one, I thought it was really fun. Unfortunately, I kept playing with this painting. I painted on this tiny little painting. I mean, it wasn't meant to be like this huge piece, but it took me about 3 hours to paint it, just because there were so many washes with it, and then of course drying time in between that as well. So a lot of the cross blooms of color actually get hidden later on as the painting progresses. So I started with the technique of lighter to darkest, and kind of wanted to go with the color scheme that her hair would be this purple color that would match her fin, that her skin color I would use a lot of the Da Vinci brown color, and then use the Holbein greenish color for like the seaweed in the background. But then I began to play with mixing the colors, which is something that you don't get a lot of if you do a 3 marker challenge. And I was kind of coming at this as a 3 marker, but you can get so much fun stuff when you have watercolors. I was like, get my brain back into the watercolor move. And you'll especially see in the seaweed, I started realizing this as I would lay down the wet water seaweed, and then I would dribble in the different colors. So some of the seaweeds would start off with this rich brown, go into the purple, and then into the green. And that just adds so much interest. And I wish I would have realized that sooner than later, because I only actually got maybe about 3 or 4 of the seaweeds to do that. All right, what are my overall thoughts of these 3 paints that I've tried? All of them performed amazingly well. I think out of all of them, either the Blick or the Da Vinci are ones that I really liked how the colors flowed. I was trying not to let the actual color of the paint sway my decision on which paint I wanted, because I really liked the magenta. The magenta color was this kind of like grape juice, and you kind of squish, or blueberries or something. You get that. Oh, no, it's blackberries. That's what I'm thinking of. You squish a blackberry and you get that stain. That's the color of it. And I loved it. I do not have a color like that. So I was very much in love with that color. I was trying not to let it make me think that was my favorite paint. Also with the Da Vinci, loved that brown. The brown was like this really rich kind of orangey-ish red that just, I love it. The green, I liked that color, but I have a color extremely similar to that, so I wasn't excited about that. As far as the way the paints moved and flowed, I did like all of them. I don't know if I show the card at the very end. I don't think I do. But once everything dried, I did find that the Da Vinci did not have, and I don't know the technical artistic term because I'm a professional artist and know all those terms, but when watercolor dries, sometimes it has a rim of a darker color. If you guys know what that technical term is, you can let me know in the comment section below. But I found that the Da Vinci did not have that as much. The Holbein had that pretty strong, and there was a pretty good amount of it on the Blick as well. Again, some artists love that, some artists don't. That was just something that I observed in the paints. But I found they all performed really well, and I'm excited to have them join the conglomeration. I haven't made a final decision on those. I think I'm actually going to try a couple other brands. Some of you guys in video 1 suggested a few different brands for me to try. I'm going to go ahead and see about ordering some of those. If you guys have some suggestions of brands of tube watercolor paint that I can try, let me know in the comment section below. And I do have a couple of palettes that I'm going to be trying. I've got some ordered, so hopefully there will be a part 3 to this in the next coming weeks. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts on watercolor in the comment section below. Hit that subscribe button if you're brand new to my channel. And as always, thanks for hanging out with me. God bless you guys, and we'll see you in another art video. Bye-bye!